Good morning, Virgo. March just handed you something. Whether you've seen it yet or not, take what resonates, leave what doesn't, subscribe, stay close. Let's go. Retrograde, not the planet, the phenomenon, the optical illusion of a celestial body reversing course, moving backward across the sky, when what is actually happening is a shift in relative position, in perspective, in the angle from which two orbiting things perceive each other. Nothing reversed. The planet kept moving forward the entire time. It only looked like return. It only appeared to retrace its path because something changed in the vantage point, because the observer's position shifted enough to make forward motion appear, briefly, as backward motion. Someone from your past is moving toward you right now, and it looks from the outside like return, like retracing, like a person reversing course on a decision that seemed final. But that is the optical illusion. What is actually happening is a shift in orbital position. Two trajectories that diverged have curved slowly over the months, over the accumulation of whatever each of you has moved through separately back toward intersection. Not because either of you reversed, because the geometry changed. Here is what March does to dormant orbits. It accelerates them. There is a phenomenon in orbital mechanics called gravitational assist, when a spacecraft uses the gravity of a planet to sling itself forward to gain velocity it could not have generated through its own propulsion alone. The craft approaches, the gravity catches it, and instead of being pulled in, the craft is whipped forward faster, further, in a direction that its own engines could not have achieved. March is that planet right now. For this person, for whatever has been building in them across the cold months, the slow, elliptical drift of their attention back toward you, the gradual curve of their orbit closing, March, is the gravitational body that catches that drift and converts it into velocity. What was moving slowly is now moving fast. What was approaching at a pace that made arrival seem theoretical is now approaching at a pace that makes arrival feel imminent. The spacecraft has entered the gravity well. It is not reversing, it is accelerating. You had a life with this person once. Call it what it was, not what it became at the end, not through the filter of how it concluded, but what it actually was in its own time. A whole thing, a living thing, something that had its own specific atmosphere, its own climate, its own interior weather that no subsequent relationship has quite replicated, not because what came after was lesser, but because this particular combination of two people produced a specific set of conditions that existed nowhere else in either of your lives before or since. That atmosphere did not disappear when the relationship ended. Atmospheres do not disappear. They disperse, they thin, they become difficult to detect at ordinary distances. But the chemical signature of them, the specific trace elements of a shared history, those persist. In memory, yes, but also in the body, in the way certain songs still carry a temperature, in the way a particular kind of light at a particular time of day can return you without warning to a version of yourself that existed only in the presence of that person. This person carries the atmosphere of what you were together, still intact in its essential components, even after everything that dispersed it. They have been breathing it for months. What broke them open, not a dramatic event. Stop looking for the dramatic event. The things that finally move people are almost never dramatic. They are small. They are the accumulation of small. A song at the wrong moment, a street that shared a name, a Tuesday afternoon that had no reason to feel significant and felt inexplicably like standing in the ruins of something that should have been preserved. Something cracked the seal. And once the seal is cracked on something like this, on a feeling that was compressed and stored and managed with the considerable discipline of someone who made a decision and committed to living inside it, once the seal is cracked, the pressurized interior starts moving toward equilibrium with the outside air. Slowly at first, then less slowly. Then, with the particular urgency of something that has been contained too long and is now seal broken, moving toward release with a momentum that the original containment can no longer match. They are in the depressurization stage. The feeling is equalizing with the atmosphere around it. New beginnings. Two words that get placed together so often they have almost lost their individual weight. New beginnings, separated. What do they mean? New, not continuous with what came before, not the next chapter of the same story, but a different story that happens to feature some of the same people. A story in which those people have been changed by time, by distance, by everything that happened in the interval into versions of themselves that the original story did not contain. The newness is real, not cosmetic, not the same thing dressed in different vocabulary. Beginnings, plural, not one beginning, beginnings. The first contact, which is one beginning. The first honest conversation, which is another. The first moment when both people acknowledge simultaneously that what is happening between them is not nostalgia, not habit, not the gravitational pull of the familiar, but something that is actually alive and present tense and oriented toward forward rather than backward. Each one of those is its own beginning. And the plural matters because it means you do not have to be ready for all of them at once. You only have to be ready for the first one. The approach, the re-entry into each other's atmosphere, the subsequent beginnings take care of themselves. A question with no clean answer. Why now? Uh, why March 2026 and not some other March? Why this particular configuration of your lives and not an earlier one or a later one? Why the geometry shifted in this direction, at this velocity, in this season? The honest answer is the conditions ripened, not on a schedule, not according to plan, but in the organic, non-linear, completely indifferent to human preference way that conditions ripen when they do, when the accumulated weight of separate development has produced in both people independently and simultaneously a readiness that neither of them engineered. You have been becoming something. They have been becoming something. And what you have each become has more overlap with what the other needs than what you were when you first met. More surface area for genuine contact, more capacity to hold what the connection actually contains without distorting it to fit a smaller container. The conditions ripened. That is all. That is everything. What arrives will not announce itself as significant. Pay attention to that. It will arrive in the register of the ordinary, a message that seems almost casual until the second reading, a name appearing in a context too specific to be entirely coincidental, a reaching out that uses the language of small things to carry the weight of large ones. This is how past love returns, when it returns with actual seriousness, not through declarations, not through the grand gesture that romantic mythology prefers, but through the small door, the unassuming door, the door that looks like it leads somewhere minor and opens into everything. Watch for the small door. Not with hunger. Hunger distorts the view, with the particular quality of attention that astronomers bring to faint signals. Patient, calibrated, trained to distinguish between noise and the thing that is genuinely, measurably there. The equal sign in the title, past love equals new beginnings, not past love plus time plus effort plus hope might eventually produce new beginnings. The equal sign is load bearing. It is making a claim about the nature of what is approaching, that the arrival of this person in your life, again, is not the beginning of a process that may or may not produce something new. It is itself the new thing. The return is the beginning. Because what returns is not the relationship that ended that relationship, does not return. It cannot, the people who inhabited it no longer exist in quite the same form. What returns is the connection, the essential, irreducible, specific to these two people quality of what exists when you are in each other's presence. That survived the ending. That persisted through the dispersal. That has been orbiting elliptically at distance outside the range of ordinary detection for the entire interval of your separation. That connection returning is a new beginning because the people receiving it are new. You are different. They are different. The same connection entering two different people produces a different experience, a richer one with more room in it, one that can hold what it actually contains without the original limitations that made the first version of this difficult to sustain. March 2026. Write it down somewhere if you need to. Not as a prediction, as a marker. A way of noting that in this particular stretch of time, in this specific configuration of your life and theirs, something shifted in the orbital geometry. The spacecraft entered the gravity well. The seal cracked. The atmosphere began to equalize. And somewhere in the space between where you are and where they are, in the specific charged, increasingly narrow gap between two trajectories that have been curving toward each other across the months, a signal is traveling, faint, moving at the speed that real things move, which is not the speed of drama, but the speed of matter crossing actual distance. But moving toward you, and when it arrives, when the small door opens, when the apparently ordinary message lands with its extraordinary subtext, when the atmosphere of what you were together suddenly reconstitutes itself in the air between you, you will not need to be told what it is. You already know the frequency. You never stop knowing it.